Welcome back to my greasy face. Welcome back to another video. I'm Trevor and I am eternally uncool. The 2010s saw the rise of several bands we see as huge acts today, whether we like it or not. The 1975 Imagine Dragons, Alabama Shakes, Five Finger Death Punch, and today's topic, 21 Pilots. 21 Pilots were a bit of an anomaly when they first burst onto the scene in 2010. They were a duo that made a hybrid of indie pop and rap rock, utilizing piano and ukulele in this weird musical chimera. And Tyler Joseph's voice didn't really sound like any other singer at the time. I mean, the first time I heard him, I thought he was Slim Shady.
I repeat, will the real Slim Shady please stand up? We're gonna have a problem here.
With songs like Holding On To You, Car Radio, and House of Gold, 21 Pilots were establishing themselves early on as a band to look out for. I was really into them my sophomore and junior year of high school. I thought it was so cool that a band in the 2010s was making rap rock, something that hadn't been done since the heyday of nu metal. Or at least not by a band being played on pop radio. Eventually I would start listening to them less and less as I gravitated towards music that was heavier, both lyrically and instrumentally. But 21 Pilots continued to get bigger and bigger, garnering a huge and loyal fan base in the Skeleton Clique. And I'd indulge in their singles every now and then, especially songs like Heathen and Tearin' My Heart. They're jams, dude. 21 Pilots are seen as one of the biggest emo bands in recent history. They've toured with the likes of Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. They've contributed songs to huge blockbusters like Suicide Squad. And even though they've only released a handful of albums, I've decided to make a ranking video on them. Why? Because I can. I'm only going to include studio albums on this list, so you won't see something like Level of Concern, which was just a single, and you won't see any live albums or their collaboration with Mute Math. And like I said in previous ranking videos, these are all just my personal opinion. Just because an album is at the bottom of the list does not mean it's trash. Unless I say it's trash. These rankings are not definitive. So without further ado, let's get into 21 Pilots from worst to best. Twenty-One Pilots' first album was recorded in Tyler Joseph's homemade recording studio and self-released. It was also the only album not to include Josh Dun on drums. Instead, it featured two other members besides Tyler Joseph, which marks the only time that 21 Pilots was a trio. There's not really much to say about this album. Kerrang put it as their pick for the band's lowest rated album, which makes sense since it was a small self-released by a then unknown band. It's not terrible or anything. It just lacks the bombasticness of 21 Pilots' later work. I never really listened to this album before I did my research for this video, but some of the songs are actually pretty good. I used Johnny Boy as the intro to this entry, and Addict with a Pen is haunting as fuck.
So low I'm traveling in the desert of my mind, and I haven't found a drop of life. I haven't found a drop of you. I haven't found a drop.
Overall, it's a lot slower and more chamber poppy than the mix of rap and indie pop that we're used to from the duo, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But this album really didn't do it for me. Alright, okay, moving on.
I'm taking over my body, back in control, no more shoddy. I bet a lot of me was lost, T's and crossing I's and dotted. I fought it a lot, and it seems a lot like flesh is all I got. Not anymore, flesh out the door, swat!
I think the first 21 Pilots album I ever bought was Regional at Best. This was when Holding On To You came out, and I heard it on Radio 104.5, the only radio station I could even tolerate as a sullen teenage boy. I picked up this album because I wanted to check out more of the band's work. This was before streaming really took off, so you had to still buy physical CDs. Man, I miss those days. You can still do that, but I miss it. What I didn't know was that some of the songs had been re-recorded and reworked for the band's third album, Vessel, which was out at the time. I was confused hearing different versions of these songs that I had already heard on the radio. I don't think this album is essential listening. It's cool to hear early versions of songs like House of Gold and Car Radio.
I ponder of something great, my lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today.
But you still have the better, more polished versions, so... Just like the self-titled, this one isn't bad, but it just feels more like a compilation of demos than it does a studio album. You know what I mean? In terms of their discography, this is one you can skip over and not really miss much. Twenty One Pilots' most recent album was recorded much the same way that their debut was, in Tyler Joseph's home studio. The only difference between those two is that this one was recorded in 2020 while we were in the middle of the end of the world. Yeah, that kind of threw a wrench in everyone's plan, huh? While writing the album, Tyler Joseph was grappling with what the album should be. Should it reflect what we were all feeling at the time? Or should it be an escape? And of course, like any sane person would, he chose to make it an escape. This could technically be called 21 Pilots' pandemic album. You know how at the time everyone was kind of making art inspired by what was happening? You had Bo Burnham's Inside, other things. We would get a preview of what the album would be like with the standalone single, Level of Concern.
As I told you, your level of concern, but you walk by like you never heard. You could bring down my level of concern. Just need you to tell me we're alright, tell me we're okay.
I liked that song when it came out. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a good reflection of what was happening at the time without being preachy or depressing. And the fact that it was written and recorded without the two members of the band being able to get together physically was kind of impressive. Not a lot of bands can make songs work remotely, but 21 Pilots did, and with surprising results. When I found out they were making a full album, I was honestly stoked. It had been 3 or 4 years since their last release, and I was craving some 21 Pilots. And if this new direction was anything to go off, it was going to be a good album. When the lead single came out, I was ready. I played the video on YouTube, and it was good. Shy Away is really good. It's synthy and dancey, a stark departure from the singles off of the last album, like Nico and the Niners. This song has more in common with a band like Phoenix than it does My Chemical Romance. And I played it pretty regularly. But as the rest of the singles rolled out, I got less excited. It's not to say that they were bad. It's just they couldn't live up to the hype of Level of Concern and Shy Away. The rest of the songs just felt lackluster to say the least. And some of the lyrics just weren't as good as on previous albums. Oh, Trevor, you try writing better. Lyrics to a song like Saturday sound like Baby's first songwriting. It's not offensively bad, but come on, Tyler, I know you can do better. And then there's Good Day with the infamous lyric that was meme to hell on TikTok at the time.
Homie, just suit me.
What I'm trying to say is the songs could have been better. The reason this album isn't at the bottom of the list is because it's still fairly new. I haven't listened to the whole thing since it was released, so who knows? Maybe it'll grow on me. Or maybe it won't. But as it stands now, Scaled and Icy is 21 Pilots' most mid album. So it fits neatly in the middle. That was a pun I did not intend to make, but I'm not ashamed. Okay, I'm a little ashamed of it.
I'm taking over my body, back in control, no more shoddy. I bet a lot of me was lost, teasing, crossing eyes and dotted. I fought it a lot, and it seems a lot like flesh is all I got. Not anymore, flesh out the door, swat!
You know, I'm halfway through recording this video, and I feel like I've slipped up, and I've called 21 Pilots Panic at the Disco a few times. So, if that has happened, Vessel has all the bangers. Holding On to You, Car Radio, Migraine. It's no wonder that this is the album that put 21 Pilots on the map. This was the album that got them noticed. This was the album that led them to Bonnaroo, Firefly, Lollapalooza. It would go platinum. Rolling Stone described it as a mixture of the best aspects of Linkin Park and Blink-182. Now, I can see Linkin Park, but Blink-182?
Shit, this fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits, fart, dirty twat.
This was 21 Pilots' first album on Fueled by Ramen, home to superstars like Fall Out Boy, Paramore, and Panic at the Disco. Signing to a label like Fueled by Ramen was a good idea for 21 Pilots, considering that their fan base was full of emo kids like me. And it gave them more opportunity to hone their sound and grow as a duo. And I really believe this album is where they started hitting their stride. The power of this album is undeniable. And it's insane to think that it's only two dudes. Tyler Joseph alone plays 7 instruments on top of programming and producing. And being a duo at a time when it was more profitable to be solo was kind of daring. This was the album that introduced most of us to 21 Pilots, or at least introduced me to 21 Pilots. Like I said, I heard Holding On to You and I was hooked. I would be looking up the band on YouTube and watching Tyler Joseph cover Elvis on the uke. I was a fan, and it was all because of this album. And the album still holds up. A lot of albums from the 2010s can feel kinda dated, as if they were produced with neon shutter shades and V-necks. But this album still manages to feel as fresh as it did then. It's definitely essential listening for anyone who's looking to get invested in 21 Pilots.
My name's Blurryface and I care what you think.
If Vessel was the album to put 21 Pilots on the map, then Blurryface was the album that cemented them as a force to be reckoned with. I said that Vessel has all the bangers, but Blurryface has all the bangers. Heavy Dirty Soul, Stressed Out, Ride, Fairly Local, Tearing My Heart, Lane Boy, The Judge. And that's only the first 2 sides. I usually get annoyed when an album is front-loaded, but I don't even care in this situation. That's how hard these songs go. I remember seeing the video for Tearing My Heart and just being blown away that this was the same band that made Holding On to You not too long ago.
She's the terror in my heart. I'm alive. She's the terror in my heart. I'm on fire. She's the terror in my heart. Take me higher than I've ever been.
They amped up the poppiness to a level that was just mainstream enough for non-fans to enjoy. Heavy Dirty Soul is just 21 Pilots doing what they're already good at, amped to 11. That was me turning the dial up. Play the clip.
There's an imposition in my mind's imagination to hope and they choke on smoke 'cause I'm smoking them at the basement. This is not rap, this is not hip-hop, just another attempt to make the voices stop.
Slow down.
Then you have a song like Ride, which I probably annoyed everyone in my life trying to sing.
Oh, 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 I'm falling, so I'm taking my time on my ride.
Then, of course, The Judge, which just feels so summery and breezy.
You're the judge, oh no, set me free.
I could go on and on about the singles, but I gotta finish the video. I got to. When I think of 21 Pilots, my mind immediately goes to this era. The red, white, and black color palette, Josh's red hair, and Tyler's red beanie with the black body paint on his neck and hands. I think it's a good encapsulation of what 2010's pop rock music was. Accessible, not too serious, but also not devoid of meaning, and fun. This album was fun. If you want anything more than that out of a 2010s pop rock album, you're asking too much.
I can't believe how much I hate pressures of a new place from my way. Jumpsuit, call.
This album came out at what I can only describe as a low period in my life. I was working a shitty job. My girlfriend at the time had left me, and I was beginning a very toxic relationship with alcohol. There were other things too, but I'm not going to go into all that today. What matters is this album found me at the right time, and I found this album when I needed an album like this. Trench is 21 Pilots' big deal album. This was the album that everyone was talking about, not just fans. Even Anthony Fantano, who's not usually kind to emo pop, scored this album pretty good. Metacritic gave it an 81 out of 100. Kerrang called it their most creative and daring. NME gave it 4 stars out of 5. Now, if you've watched other videos of mine, you know that I am a proponent of taking what critics say with a grain of salt and forming your own opinion. The fact that a concept album from an emo, pop, rap, rock, fusion duo got so much acclaim in 2018 is just insane to me. I was hesitant to listen to this album. I had kind of fallen off the 21 Pilots train when they got more popular. I didn't hate them and I didn't think they were sellouts. It's kind of hard to be a sellout when you're already a pop band. But it's like every third person I met was a 21 Pilots fan. They were just everywhere and I was cynical about it. So when they started promotion for this album, I approached it with trepidation. But any hesitation I had was quickly assuaged by the release of the lead single, Jumpsuit. This song was heavy and intense. It really set the tone for what to expect with this album. Then of course they follow it up with Nico and the Niners, a song that played a big part in the story and lore behind the album.
I'm so high, my jumpsuit takes me so high. I'm flying from a fire, from Nico and the Niners. Whoa.
And that's one thing I really liked about this album was the lore.
What the lore? The lore, guys, the lore! The lore! Ring the lore alarms!
I love concept albums, and I love albums with rich storylines and Easter eggs and callbacks to previous songs and characters. Trench has all those things and more. The rest of the singles have gone on to become some of my favorite 21 Pilots songs. My Blood, Chlorine, and my favorite 21 Pilots song of all time, The Hype.
Nice to know my kind will be on my side. I don't believe the hype.
I love this song. It just sounds like it should be playing over the end credits of like a really good movie. This is probably 21 Pilots' most intriguing album, in my opinion. There are so many rabbit holes that you can go down when looking into the overarching story in this album. Like the origin of Nico and the Niners being inspired by a group of French mathematicians. And the city of Dima, which is a reference to Zoroastrianism, which I'm probably pronouncing wrong, but is one of the world's oldest organized faiths. They even went super specific with the type of yellow they wore as it pertains to part of the album. And it's stuff like that that I love. I love when bands and artists really live in their work and make an album roll out an event instead of just releasing singles just willy-nilly. They made it an event. They made it an era. The best era, in my opinion. I listened to this album the same way I listened to most albums in 2018 and 2019, while commuting to and from rehearsals. I did a lot of plays back then, and the drives were long enough that I could listen to full albums. I was still driving a car with a CD player at the time, so I would use all this time that I had driving to listen to albums I was interested in. Trench was one of those albums. Being able to immerse myself into this story and into this world while doing something as solitary as driving was just perfect. Instead of being in a world where I hated my job and I was having personal problems, I was able to live in the world of Dima for the duration of the album. It was almost like reading a book. You just kind of fall into this world, and the moment the song ends or you close the book, it's weird to come back to reality, you know? And I think that's why this became my favorite 21 Pilots album. It was there for me when I needed something like it the most. What do you think of my list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your favorite 21 Pilots album? Let me know in the comments. That's gonna do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did like this album, I highly recommend hitting that like button as hard as you possibly can. And subscribe to the channel. I post videos once a week about music, music culture, and anything that interests me. But mostly music right now. I've got 2 big videos that I've been working on. They're a lot more of like video essays, but they're still about music. So get ready for those in the near future. You should also share this video with everyone in your life. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. My goal right now is to reach 150 subscribers, and liking, commenting, sharing, interacting with this video in any way really helps me to achieve that goal. With all that being said, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Trevor. Stay uncool. That's the end of the video. Goodbye.